Hi everyone. My name is Samantha Bray, and this is my interview presentation. So to start off, the person I chose to interview, her name is Julia. Her name has been changed for confidentiality reasons. Julia is a white Jewish female, and she identifies as straight. She is the only child of her married parents, and she is currently 24 years old. Julia comes from an upper middle class family. Her mom was a pediatric nurse and her dad ran a business. Her mom has since retired and her dad ended up selling the business, so I guess both of her parents are retired. Julia lives in a nice neighborhood that is predominantly Jewish. Her neighborhood is all upper middle class as well. Um, So Julia is very involved in the Jewish culture. She observes all the Jewish holidays. There are some holidays that she doesn't go all out in, that her parents do. This is particularly Yom Kippur. During Yom Kippur, you are not really supposed to brush your teeth, wash your hair. You can't even rinse your mouth out with water. She personally thinks that it is gross, in her words, and she will brush her teeth that day. She'll try to shower the night before, so at least she's not, breaking all these customs. But she will brush her teeth on the day of Yom Kippur. Like I said, Julia lives in a predominantly Jewish area, which has helped her become very involved in the community. She's often volunteering at her local Jewish rec center with younger kids, and she loves art, so she volunteers mostly in the art programs. She paints with them. She does arts and crafts, and everything is usually geared towards whatever holidays coming up or just something of the Jewish culture. Julia also helps out for community events and fairs at the center. A lot of times they do like craft fairs or just like community programs that come to the center, and they set it up really nice, and she's always volunteering and helping out, and she feels that it makes her really close to her community and her culture as well. And she stated that she really does enjoy doing this kind of work. So when Julia was younger, about 15 years old, she heavily questioned her faith. Around this time, Julia became very sick. She had this unknown disease. They couldn't figure out what it was, and she lost a lot of weight. She lost a lot of her hair. It was coming out in clumps just by brushing it, laying down. And she lost a lot of muscle weight as well. At 15 years old, she needed a colostomy bag. And she just didn't understand why. She questioned, why me constantly every single day, and it was a really dark time for her. Her family tried to help, as best as they could, but they weren't going through what she was going through, and she just thought that, whatever they said wasn't really helping because they truly don't understand. Thankfully, in more recent years, the colostomy bag has since been reversed. They figured out what was causing all the damage. And she was just having a lot of issues at the time. But looking back, she realizes how much stronger she is because of this illness that she had. And she has a lot of scars on her stomach from just exploratory surgeries and from her colostomy bags. So now she calls those her battle wounds. um, so unlike her parents, Julia has mixed feelings about sitting Shiva. And sitting Shiva is when a loved one dies, and in place of they'll have a funeral, but as well as the funeral, they will sit Shiva for about, Julia said, about 5 days. And it's where everyone comes to the house, you sit on the floor, there's a lot of eating involved. But unlike her parents, she actually does not enjoy sitting Shiva, and she always says when her time comes to leave this world, she does not want that. And this is something that she does not want to ever participate in. She will, but she does it very, unwillingly, kind of just to really please her parents. She does still live with them, and, she still does follow the rules of their house, especially when the Shiva is taking part in their house. Um, like I said, it's something that she doesn't necessarily want to participate in, even though her family does. Um, and again, there has been a difference in spirituality between her and her parents, especially when she was younger. And this also does go back to sitting Shiva. Julia does believe that part of it was her maturity level at the time. In Benavide's article, it states that there can be a conflict when one is not mature enough for certain situations. This goes back to Julia's maternal grandmother had died when she was 7, and Julia she didn't understand. She didn't get why she needed to sit Shiva. She didn't know where her grandmother was and why she just wasn't coming back. So a lot of it she really just didn't understand. And she was very confused. She questioned the death a lot, instead of just coming to terms with the death and understanding that, her grandmother was in a better place. This grandmother did pass away from cancer. It was expected. They knew the time was coming. But when Julia was 14, she lost her paternal grandmother, and it was very sudden and unexpected. She just one day didn't wake up, and she wasn't sick. She didn't have any illnesses. She didn't have a heart attack, nothing. She just unexpectedly died in her sleep. And Julia took this very, very hard. She questioned her faith again at this time, and she lost sight of her spirituality. And this is very different from what normally happens after a death of a loved one. According to Dyer and Hagdorn, spirituality is often used and highly effective when dealing with loss. People often look to God for strength, but Julia only questioned why he would take her grandmother away so suddenly. And she, once again, even though she was older at this time, she understood it more and still questioned why, her grandmother had left. So based off where Julia is now, I would place her in I don't know how to pronounce this word, individuative reflective faith stage, of Fowler's stage of development. Julia can see and understand her development in her faith. She has traveled through this. She sees where she started off as to where she is now. Julia started out in the intuitive projective faith, where she followed her parents' beliefs. She listened to everything they said about her faith, or about their faith. And she has eventually moved on, to committing to her faith because she wants to and not because she was forced to. Where, she sees this faith and she knows that she wants to be in it instead of just being in this religion because her parents are. And again, after spending more time volunteering at the rec center lately, and especially after her illness, she realized the values and beliefs that she has, and she loves, the community that she's in. So implications for social work practice. Julia and her family, they believe that anyone can work with the Jewish community. You don't have to be Jewish, to work with them. All they really want is the respect of their culture and their past experiences. Julia thinks that social workers can be better by recognizing what they've been through, but not dwelling on the past. Julia talked about this by bringing up the Holocaust. She wishes that more people would recognize that, Jewish people went through this, but it is not the only struggle that they ever experience. Especially for Julia, her parents never experienced it. Her grandparents were born at the end of the Holocaust. So it's not something that she was, first-handly impacted by. And while she feels and sympathizes with the rest of her community, it's not something she struggles with. But of course, she understands that there are other people who struggle with it, which is why, you have to realize exactly what it is that, your clients want you to focus on with them. And Julia also believes that the micro, meso, and macro levels can be they can be they can be made. Sorry, which I discuss on the next slide. So micro, everybody's different, and like I just said on the slide before, not everybody's experiences is what the entire community went through. And this reminds me of part of Frankel's book, where I took this segment of the book as him saying, while it is the same community, not everyone has the same experiences or even the same views. So you have to take an individual approach to each client that you have. And it's not a one size fits all. It never is, no matter with what religious group you're working with, what kind of people you're working with, it's never a one size fits all. And it's important to ask your clients about their beliefs. And Julia stated, she can work on one aspect of her life and it'll be completely different from what her parents, even want to work on or believe in. So she just wants people to understand that everybody is different and you need to have an individualistic approach for each client that you work with. So meso, I actually got the chance to attend an event at Julia's local temple during all of this, and it was a karaoke night, and it was to bring the community a little bit closer together, but also help raise money for Ukraine. They're still her temple itself is still sending a lot of resources and items, money, all to Ukraine. And Julia wishes that more people would do stuff like this, that just because you're not Jewish or you have different views or beliefs in the world doesn't mean that you can't take part in these community events. So while I was there, I got to experience their culture through the event. It was mostly food. They had a Jewish deli, cater the whole event, and it was very delicious. But I also got to learn some songs and some prayers that they sang, and it was a beautiful event altogether. So the last point is get a better understanding of their oppression that they have experienced. And this again goes back to talking about the Holocaust. While the Holocaust was a absolutely horrendous event, it wasn't the only event that happened to the Jewish community. And Julia would like people to focus, not more, but just in general, focus on the more recent events, the temple shootings that have happened, hate crimes. She stated that her dad always had this fear instilled inside of him that something was going to happen to his business. And when Julia was younger, she never understood it. She never got why he had this fear until she got older and she realized like all of these hate crimes that took place. And macro, again, you don't have to be Jewish to take part in Jewish events. Julia made sure to tell me, and she still does, when her temple is having events or even her rec center is having events. You can donate to Jewish groups that are raising funds for all different things. Or the big one, take part in marches for, equality among the Jewish community. And these are all things that you can do to help the community at a higher level, instead of just the individual approach that we would take in a social work setting or a one-on-one setting. So self-reflection, how will I use this information? And what has changed about my views of working with a different religion? So if you can help an individual, it doesn't matter what religion they are. And while this, was kind of always instilled in me, I never really understood that just because you're working with someone in the Jewish community, it doesn't mean that they want their therapist, social worker, anyone to be Jewish as well. Um, you